Welcome, everyone. This is Vivian here from Food Techies Finland. Welcome to our webinar on crowdfunding for business and concept validation. As you know, we did a webinar a little bit before on this on Crowdfunding 101 for startups. This is going to be a little bit more of a deeper dive into crowdfunding, not just for startups this time, but for all small, medium-sized businesses to use crowdfunding, not just as a way to raise funds, but also to rapidly prototype your product, your service, business, or even your business model with you. I have today with me crowdfunding coach Kimmo Hokkanen from Ehta Raha. He's going to be the one who's doing most of the explaining here. Kimmo, if you just want to tell us a bit about yourself.
All right. Well, nowadays I call myself culture gardener and crowdfunding coach, but I have a history of like starting in 2005, advertising agency. And then I somehow moved into the startup world. That's a dangerous place, I mind you, and was working with the startup in journalism. We raised, I was helping them raise about 400,000 euros. And I made my exit in 2015. I made a huge pile of money and bought a saxophone with that money. So, but I'm happy now that I did this exit with just a little bit of money and moved to crowdfunding and working with Ehta Raha. And since then, I have been working with helping companies and different organizations and projects make their crowdfunding projects and campaigns successful. A couple of last years, I've been working on mostly on different tools on how to help organizations, communities, and companies work together by themselves to work through all the stages of preparing and campaigning and aftermath of crowdfunding. I have some here. Maybe we talk about them later. So, yes, I'm a board member of 3 companies and yeah, somewhat too busy for, especially this season when you should be kind of calming down and preparing to eat well.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk about crowdfunding with us. Of course, we did take some questions already from the participants when they registered for Eventbrite. We're going to encourage those who are watching now to please ask questions while Kimmo is doing the presentation as well. We'll do our best to try and answer as much as we can here today for you. But of course, we have to start every little webinar about it. What is crowdfunding? And I think, Kimmo, you're just going to do a little introduction for all of us here.
Well, I'm starting with a question. I want you to think about what is your audience? And if you can answer in the chat or yeah, then Vivian can bring the answers up if there's any.
For sure. We'll wait a few moments here to see if anyone says anything in the chat. If not, we'll of course bring up the questions from the people who pre-registered.
There's at least two reasons why I'm bringing up this question. Is one is that it helps me like to focus on things that are important for you, but it's also like attuning you to think about who are you possibly doing the crowdfunding for? What kind of people they are?
All right. Well, I would say, at least from the list of participants who registered here, we have quite a few actually future entrepreneurs and startups here. and an SME. But I think primarily most of them are asking questions about food. Food, actually, surprise, surprise. Of course, probably because I extended my out to my community. So, as well, there are a couple of questions here about people wanting to sell equity equity, and we even have someone who's looking at using crowdfunding for their book publishing business, if that helps you, Timo, with the audience.
Yeah, it sounds a lot about like kind of reward based or such crowdfunding, so maybe I can focus more on that. But let's have a little dip into history of crowdfunding. And when we were mentioning book publishing, it actually started with the translation, or this history is more to humor you than to be like exact history of things. But young Alexander Pope wanted to translate Iliad's Homer in 1713, and it was kind of pre-sold, so form of crowdfunding. Then in 1874, the French wanted to present the USA with the Statue of Liberty, but they couldn't raise enough funds for building the pedestal for it. So they crowdfunded the pedestal for Statue of Liberty. Then there is like this cooperative in India for milk marketing that crowdfunded a movie about milking from 500,000 farmers in 1972. We came online with crowdfunding with the comeback tour of a progressive rock band Marillion in 1997, when they were thinking that they would make 60,000 pounds of loss if they would tour. So they reached out to their audience, and the audience paid the rest. That also led to the formation or founding of the first crowdfunding platform, that was Artistshare in 2001. But things really got big when Indiegogo in 2008 and Kickstarter in 2009 started. And after that, in 4 years, there was like hundreds of platforms for crowdfunding all around the globe. And now it is in thousands. The interesting news today is actually kind of a historical moment, because today Kickstarter announced that they are moving to blockchain, and they are open sourcing their blockchain project. And that is going to be interesting to see how that will change the future. How will we see this moment from the future? What do you think, Vivian?
Wow, that's pretty crazy. So that literally just came up today.
It was, yeah, today when I was reading news, that was there. It's probably going to change the business model for Kickstarter quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's gonna bring in a new audience, because I remember, at least for example, with the NFTs, which we're not gonna dive into because that's a whole different topic. Non-fungible tokens, for those people who don't know about it. I heard recently, for example, an artist in Montreal was made $300,000 over 10 months. So I think there's just a new revenue stream and just new ways to think about crowdfunding as a tool to raise funds for your business and your business model. And what are you thinking, Timo, is going to happen now that they have done this, that they've implemented blockchain technologies?
Well, it's interesting because it's from consumer point of view or from like crowdfunder point of view, it gives more possibilities, and because they are open sourcing it, it's also gives possibilities for new platforms that are based on blockchain. Also, the choice of blockchain is quite interesting because they didn't go with like Ethereum or any proof of work platform. But also it brings to mind the question, like, how is it changing the business model? Are they kind of thinking that now with possible NFTs and other instruments, they will be riding along with the successful projects even after the project or campaign has finished? So they could get revenue even after the campaign is finished. So, yeah.
Really cool. Okay, well, you can talk about this for another hour, but anyhow, let's get back to the basics of crowdfunding here.
Yes, indeed, basics. We are now talking about what crowdfunding actually is. And it's plainly, it's asking for money from public for the projects that you think are important and you think that your audience is thinking that they are important too. They're usually small amounts, and they usually gathered through internet-based platforms. But the most important thing to me, at least, is that the people contribute together. They come together to fund something that is important to them. And I think that is a very important thing to keep in mind when you are planning a crowdfunding campaign. How do you tell to your audience things that, well, I think, how do you listen to your audience so that they tell what is important to them? And how do you kind of keep on discussing that? How do you keep on interacting? So what is crowdfunding good for? So it's one way we're discussing today also is like it's perfect for validating ideas. It's kind of easy way of pre-sales marketing or starting a business. It's also good for getting early investment, and in some forms of crowdfunding, also the next stage investment. It's especially good for fulfilling communal needs, like if near in your neighborhood there's something missing or you're afraid of losing something, then crowdfunding works well for that. Loan-based crowdfunding especially is good for bridge funding. So you have a project and you get money after 6 months or 4 months when the project is finished, but you have to somehow bridge that time. So maybe a crowd-based loan would be a solution. And it's good for also like hybrid funding, like you can, for a part of the funding, you can raise through crowdfunding. So like a self-financing part for a bank loan. And then we have to remember that crowdfunding is not just financing. It's a marketing tool, it's a communications tool, it's a way of reaching out to your community and finding fans, and also way of listening to them if you keep yourself open to that. And through that, it's opportunity to learn. And because if you are staying vulnerable, it's a way of learning a lot about what your audience, what your future customers really want. And it's an opportunity for the community or your customers to take part, to come together with you to make your project happen. And because in financing, we always have to talk about risks and that everything doesn't always work as planned, it's actually a good way of failing early. So you get to know that no, there is no market for this product or this service. And you are getting to know it quite cheaply without losing lots of money. But what is it not? Many platforms say that you just quickly fill this form and then you are ready to go. But it's not quick. It's not easy and it's not effortless. It takes a lot of work. So it's not money for nothing. And it's not faceless. It's something where your story as a founder or as a group or community is important. People relate to your story. So you have to put your face to your campaign. And it's not risk-free. You can lose a lot of work and time. So let's talk about the risks a little bit. If your campaign fails, or you don't get the funding, or you get really little funding, or your delivery fails, then there is a big reputational risk. I think failing the delivery is the biggest risk, because probably then you're out of the business after that. Then there's the trap of insufficient funding. It's unfortunately quite common that people don't calculate properly what do they really need, how much money they need, and what it takes to actually produce the rewards. And then you are in a trap of having to deliver but not having enough funds for that. So I already mentioned loss of time, energy, and people resources. But then it's also risky to the investor due to lack of regulated aftermarket and also other regulations. So especially outside Finland, like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, platforms like that, there are many products that are promising a lot. But what do you really get? You never know. What does the crowdfunder want? I think I've been talking with lots of crowdfunders when I've been like on streets and marketplaces and shopping malls doing investigation or research for different crowdfunding campaigns. And what is surprising that many people are not so interested in profit or even the reward, but more interested in being able to help and to participate, that they are part of something. Or they want to make an investment that matters to them. And one thing that can be thought of like that they have extra resources. They have money lying on their bank accounts and they want to put it in work, but they want to do it something meaningful. And that's why they're looking for alternative for traditional investing, like investing in listed stocks or funds or instruments like that. And for some, it may be excitement that they want to take a risk. And some want steady profit, like investing in debt-based crowdfunding, I think, is one of the best ways of getting quite unrisky profit. And some want the reward. But mostly, I think I could call it also story-based funding. People want to be part of a good story. So it's very important that you, as people that are looking to fund your project, that you know your story that you are going to tell and share with your audience. People want to be part of a good narrative. They want to feel good that they are doing something that is useful or helpful. And another question for you. What do you think is the most popular form of crowdfunding?
Again, for our shy audience, this is a chance for you to just type into the chat here in YouTube what you think are what you think is the most common one. We'll wait a moment here while you answer. Don't be shy. And also feel free to take, if you have any questions so far about what Kimmo has presented, feel free to ask them as well. But Kimmo, great point also about the story-based funding as well. I think one of the questions that came up from the participants when they registered was that they learned a bit about crowdfunding already from one of our previous webinars, but they're not sure about how to build their story. While we're waiting for answers from the audience, maybe you can just quickly comment on that.
Yeah, that's actually about the cards. There is one whole chain of games or exercises just focusing on the story, how to tell a story, where does it start from, and how do you actually what kind of form it can take, and how do you kind of continue telling the story in different mediums, like when you are making a video, or when you are making a website, when you are making your social media content, that you remember that what is your storyline, what kind of narrative you have. Any answers?
No, they're being really shy. We have people watching, but they don't want to reply. But if I had to, of course, guess based on when I was chatting with the participants, is that many of them only are familiar with the reward-based crowdfunding that Kickstarter and Indiegogo do.
Yeah, I think most of people only know about reward-based crowdfunding, but the reality is a bit different when we go to the numbers. And let's look at the numbers a bit. This is like the funding volumes in Finland from 2014 to 2020. And as you can see here, if you follow my cursor, this is reward-based. It's practically non-existent. It's 1 million euros in a year. And then there are investment-based, that is equity, and then there's loan-based, and then there's peer-to-peer lending. I'm not talking about peer-to-peer lending today, and it's not really crowdfunding in a sense that we are talking, because that's like a consumer lending. Globally, situation looks like this. So it's been growing quite steadily, and it's still growing. I think it's like around, well, it's very hard to get good numbers like even 2018 or 2019 without paying a whole lot of money for some institution that makes this research. But what is surprising is that China is actually way biggest market for crowdfunding. Though there is a big part of this, like almost 70% is peer-to-peer lending, so it's consumer market. But still, even for companies, it's bigger than the rest of the world combined.
That's really interesting. I think one of the questions I think we kind of probably will get from people is, what is the best type of crowdfunding in Finland? Then, in that case, seeing how little was invested in reward-based crowdfunding and how big it is in China.
Well, like this is the question to the audience: what can you offer? It depends a lot on that. Well, it's not really. You can only choose the way of crowdfunding that is kind of fitting for your needs. If you need to like test if you are ready for a market, then probably reward based is best. Or
Great.
even like before you are starting a company, you can try donation based. But I go deeper into those.
Yeah, I actually have a quick question here from the audience as well, Kimmo. Someone is asking, what about social responsibility crowdfunding, where companies can meet their CSR requirements? Any comments on that?
That is, it's a good question, and it's something that, well, especially now, like this change in the Kickstarter's way of doing things, you probably can see like things are changing. Nowadays, crowdfunding platforms are not very transparent. And especially platforms in Finland, I think some of them are pretty sketchy. Some of the ones that work with the banking institutions, big banks, they have to kind of be quite strict about being working for the best of the customers. But then others, I don't know really what is happening there. And of course, like ones like Mecenati, I think they are really, really trustworthy. And then when it comes to social responsibility, I think it's more about a company that is reaching out for crowdfunding to tell their story about their social responsibility. There are some platforms that are kind of focused on social responsibility, but we don't go deeper into that today.
Yeah. So if you're trying to kind of meet that requirement, then perhaps it's up to you as the person running the campaign to really make sure that you're getting across the message that you are meeting your social responsibility or your CSR requirements. Thank you for the question from the audience. Again, once more, kindly reminding everybody, we only have about a little under 30 minutes left. And so please ask Kim your questions as we continue with the presentation. So
and that was actually good leading for this question, like what can you offer? Also, one part of your offer may be that that you are offering your social responsibility. That is what you are reaching out to your customers and audience with.
Especially with this donation-based crowdfunding, which I think you're going to talk about a bit here now, Kimmo. That's something that nonprofits typically depend on here in Finland. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is true. And traditionally, it was just for nonprofits and organizations and associations, foundations. But there was a change in the law in 2019, and it's called Money Collection Act in Finnish legislation. And while most of money collection doesn't really you need to apply for a permit from the police, and it takes a long time, and it's not certain that you can get the permit. And for the applying for permit, you have to have non-profit association or foundation. But with the new law, there was addition of a small scale money collection, which allows you, if you have 3 Finnish citizens, to collect 10,000 euros in 3 months' time, 2 times a year. So in a year, you could possibly collect 20,000 euros. And I think this is best suited for projects that are not kind of funded as companies yet, or you are kind of doing research for your idea, your product or service. And I have an example of this kind of small scale collection we ran last summer, a small scale money collection for something called Duck Patrol, which is like ecosystem restoration service using ducks as like these workers for ecosystem restoration. And it collected 3,300 euros from 130 funders. So it helps the project to move forward and prepare for like bigger funding or grants or whatever comes next. What is probably most probable form of crowdfunding for this audience is reward base. It's also can be seen as pre-marketing or pre-sales of your product or service. So it's a good way of validating your product idea or service idea or your business model. Is the price you are asking for your product or service, is it something that people really want to pay, and so on. There's no share of ownership, but it's essential that you plan your rewards well, that you know what your customers really want. There is a lot of campaigns where the rewards are badly thought out, and nobody wants to have more useless crap in their homes.
I think this is a good time to interject with another question, Kimmo, from one of the participants who submitted it. They were asking, is there any specific tips when the product is food? And I think, especially with reward-based crowdfunding, there's, I think, a lot of opportunity there to validate and test your product. I think a lot of aspiring food entrepreneurs in my community, they're initially really dependent on the pop-up ravintola. But this could be a nice stepping stone to continue to validate your product.
And that's also a possibility of combining like pop-up ravintola or a food truck or something like that, where you are already in connection with your customers, and then via crowdfunding you can give your customers more leverage, more ways of like helping you out. And that's also probably the way you should create your story, to kind of have a warm connection with your audience and keep talking with your audience. Give them the voice, like make them, because if you are already having a pop-up restaurant or a food truck or something like that, you can talk with your audience and you can collect their opinions and show those opinions to your bigger audience and through the crowdfunding.
Yes, well, I think you have also a couple of interesting examples coming up with the food, and hopefully, if we gather enough interest for the workshops next year for crowdfunding, we can actually help some of these startups directly build that campaign and that story.
Yeah, there's lots of topics to cover for 1 hour webinar, and we can't really go very deep into these things. But if we can launch the workshops, then we can really go deeper into things and work together with the companies and help them on.
All right. Anyhow, I'll let you go. 20 minutes to go. Let's see what we can cover.
Let's see. So reward pays mostly hard to really calculate what you need and what you are paying for, because you have to count in production, marketing, shipping, platform fees, and also think of what is this actual sum that you are paying VAT for, because you are pre-selling things and you have to pay VAT too. I have some examples here of reward-based crowdfunding on Mecenati. There was they were finding a new restaurant in South Karelia, Vietnamese restaurant. You can see there's faces of the people there. It's giving like a warm welcome for the funders. They got 47 funders and 3,000, bit over 3,000 euros from the minimum goal of 3,000 and like the real goal of 10,000. So you can see what kind of sums we are talking about here. And then there's the zero waste eco cosmetics that are selling this kind of face cleaning cakes or something. I don't understand anything about this. You can see in my face. But they had 336 funders and raised 10,000 and just over their minimum goal. I hope they got enough money to actually deliver what they were promising. So I don't know. How does this kind of funding fit your business? Is this kind of money enough for what you are trying to do? There is also bigger projects, like this game project here that was on Kickstarter. As you can see, it's actually based in Copenhagen. They needed a middleman to actually do the campaign, because Kickstarter doesn't work in Finland because of the different legislation that we have in Finland. So it's also on a campaign on huge international platforms and raise big amounts of money, but then you have to plan it ahead, have a middleman somewhere and all these things. Debt-based crowdfunding is basically taking a loan from a crowd of people instead of a financial institution, or these web-based little loans that you can have nowadays. It's used for short-term loans, like having a quick investment, something broke in your restaurant or in your food production plant, or important equipment, then you need to get a new man or get it repaired, but you don't have the cash flow to actually pay for that. Or bridge funding, as I earlier mentioned. And there's no share of ownership, but there's a longer relationship with the investors, because you have to pay back the loan, and the investors are also waiting to get the interest for their money. So you have to think what kind of risks you have, how much interest you can pay, and how quickly you can pay back the loan. Most of these kind of loans are maybe 6 months to 2 years.
And Kimmo, we have a question from the audience once again. We got Tommy asking, what you would recommend to take an idea or in order to launch a crowdfunding campaign, or at least when you're launching a crowdfunding campaign. You have the product idea, how to make it, to prototyping, the know-how, how it could work, and you have the third option, like full development and go-to-market roadmap. So like ready-made plans, looking for funding. He's asking what you would prefer or what you would recommend.
You can also, of course, make different kinds of crowdfundings for different phases or stages. For product idea, before actually even starting a company, I would probably run a small-scale money collection campaign. So just to kind of enable you and maybe your associates to work a little while on developing the idea before even starting the company. And then when you have a ready prototype or even like a pre-prototype, something that you can show or make your audience taste or touch or play with, then you could run for a reward-based campaign.
Sorry, Tommy just mentioned to me the question is actually about reward-based crowdfunding specifically. But I think what you said already kind of still applies, is that you'd use different types of crowdfunding and crowdfunding campaigns for the stages.
And then for maybe when you are actually launching to the market and scaling your production, you may need a loan or maybe equity campaign to get enough funds to get bigger facilities or get bigger machines for doing what you are doing or scaling up your business idea.
Yes, sorry, that was a comment that
stages.
Yeah, that was a comment that Tommy is actually mentioning too, that in his third option that the product could already be there and would require the investment of a larger scale production. Great audience from the question. Please, I know we only have 12 minutes left, but let's keep them coming. But anyhow, Kimmo, you've got a lot to cover, so let's have you continue.
Okay, let's go quite quickly through equity crowdfunding because it's probably not important at this point, but it's something that you give out shares and to crowds instead of angel venture capital. So it's kind of an early stage equity instrument for advancing your operation, scaling up. And it's also a way to engage a group of people to act in the role of owners. So you need to strengthen your inner circle or a company, your team, then it may be part of that. And there are several, when we go on in different crowdfunding types, they get more complicated, and equity crowdfunding is also already something that you probably need to consult someone like Ehtera for actually making it so that it meets the requirements of the law. Some platforms also help with that. And this is kind of a good example of equity crowdfunding for kind of a go-to-market or scaling up. And this food that is headed by this famous Finnish chef, Henri Alén, they raised 480,000 euros. It is like 37%. It's over their target to get their product on the market shelves. But let's think about what is the product or service you want to validate or prototype.
We have a quick question here from Sylvie, actually. We'll try and answer it really fast, especially since we were talking about equity crowdfunding just now. They want to know how to evaluate the new startup's equity value, kind of according to that capital investment at the earlier stage.
Well, it's very much case by case. It's very hard to answer that question without knowing the case. So you probably need to consult someone who can work with you on that when you at that stage.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we were to do a workshop, if that's something that we could dive a little deeper into, understanding how to do the equity-based crowdfunding, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's something that we could look into, and we could get a specialist expert for that to take part in maybe the last part of the workshop. So just when you are about to launch.
All right. Anyhow, I'll stop interrupting and let you get on.
Yes. So before we go to actually running a crowdfunding, I think what is the product or service that you want to prototype or validate?
We'll give the audience a couple of seconds here to see if they have any answers. But of course, I know at least from my community, it's usually food-based products or services. We also have a couple of agritech startups. So for example, they want to do urban farming or gardening. I remember when I was talking to a local startup here called Block Garden. I think we have a rep from the audience here, in our audience here too, in the chat, if they want to comment. They've been looking into new service lines and products, for example, because they're right now their service is only active during the summer and it's quiet during the winter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I think it's a good way to validate that kind of product or service.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm asking this is also you need to think, how do you figure out with your consumers, your customers, your audience, that is the need real? Are you answering the real question? Do they really want what you are thinking that they want? And crowdfunding, if done very agile in an agile way, is a good way to do that. But it's also it's not easy, because you have to be quite vulnerable to go to your market, go to your customers with something that is still in development, something that you are not sure that is this ready. But it's a good way to get early input, and also early input in a way of that. Are they really ready to put so much money into it as you think that you would need to make some revenue out of your service or product? And maybe they want something slightly different or completely different. So, and it's also a good stress test for finding out, is your team really ready to implement it? Are they ready to deliver the service and product in the scale that is needed for actual production? So now I run quickly through how does it work in practice. What is relevant, or what I think is relevant in finding funding is that you tell openly about your project, why you are doing it, how you are doing it, why it's important to you, and also you tell about risks. And what is especially difficult for Finnish people is asking or even pleading because that's what you have to do a lot. Daily, you have to contact people and people you know, and have the nerve to keep on asking, have the resilience of doing that every day. And it's quite hard. I've done that several times, and I know. You need to be clear about things. You have to have clear structure. You need to be open about your motivation for you, why you are asking money. If it's something that you need some tools or whatever, be open about that. And use time to plan marketing. And if you don't have all the players needed in your team, then look around if you can involve someone else. Or maybe this kind of like coaching that we are hoping to provide, that maybe there's other teams that can work together at some points. Most important in campaigning or doing crowdfunding is not campaigning per se. I think it's the preparation, that you do the calculation, you prepare the contents, talk with friends and family and other founders, gather like prepared like people that are ready to step in right at the moment when the campaign starts. Because all the most of the successful campaigns, they gather 40 to 45% of funding during the first 3 days and the last 3 days. So the first 3 days and the last 3 days are the most important for the success of the campaign. You have to be active during the campaign, but then you can't kind of just drop the ball when you have finished with your campaign. That's when the actual work starts. And that's when you start working with your investors, and you have to keep on being transparent and report about the process and the impacts of your service or product. And make your owners, if you are making equity, make them committed, or make your backers, if you're making a reward-based campaign, committed to share their love. So this should be more like shoo, because at the beginning you have the friends and other founders and the families and the boyfriends and wives and the cousins that you are kind of pleading to give money. And when you have reached some certain level of your target, then people of the wider crowd, they can trust that you actually can make it. First, you calculate how much money you really need and how you're going to use it. This is very important. And also think, are you really going for money, or are you going for visibility? Is this marketing or is this sales?
I think that's a really good question going in. And I guess also if we do the workshop, if we do end up doing the workshop, we'll also be kind of talking about viability as well, like, designing your campaign to truly see if this is a product that's going to last, instead of just quickly getting some money or just some visibility.
Yeah, I have some very tricky tools. Actually, I think Tommy in audience has been testing this one, which is like reaching out very early to like the first 10 contacts. And I don't know if Tommy is there to comment. How did it feel?
Sure. Why don't we just bring him in really quick from the audience here? Tommy, hello.
Hello, Vivian and Kimmo.
Hello, Tommy. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's been our pleasure to be enabling and sponsoring this event. This is excellent, 100% high quality digital content that we want to have more. And this will be even later on, it can be reviewed. So, but yeah, let's get into this specific question. So how would you like to ask my opinion on this?
You were testing some of the games on the cards, some of the exercises that I'm using on them. So, what kind of memories or ideas do you have from that? How did it work for you?
Yeah, I like the approach that crowdfunding. Yes, as you gave the lecture, that like there are so many of the like theoretical frameworks for this, but I would just encourage from my perspective, just to take your elements that you have, your ideas, the products, the business ideas, all of those on the table. And maybe it's a little bit, people cannot see now that like how the cards are useful, but at least with the cards, you can start simulating those different scenarios and different roles. Like I really like actually even in business development, the idea that yes, you have a certain idea of your business that, okay, this is it going to go. But hey, what if you change the glasses into different perspective that, okay, you become more skeptical, you start seeking some risks about it, or you start seeking some more new opportunities. You know, it's a good simulation tool, and especially to be done in teams or in groups of people, because I think many times we are in love with our own ideas. We would like to validate it through crowdfunding campaign, but I think actually even prior to that, it would be good to have a group of people, even though those other people would not be investing, maybe like they would not be co-founders of yours, maybe, but they would be close people to you, and they would be actually have a courage to be objecting you, not only saying yes. That's actually one of the biggest threats for any founder, that you only get those yes people around, and then when you go for the crowdfunding campaign, then you just wonder like, why is not everybody else saying yes to everything? So I would just say like these different steps. First, having this kind of planning session. That's why I asked about this question as well. Like, is it just an idea you should launch for a campaign, the product that you already have a prototype, or just like already a ready-made product? I think you should a little bit, you would save a lot of time in the crowdfunding campaign marketing, and you would get much better results that if you worked a little bit. For example, with this business, how would you call them? Play cards. Just like one example.
Crowdfunding card deck, I think, is what we decided to call it.
This is a little bit like advertisement, but I think there are many other tools as well, like for business development. But you know, this kind of a group and role playing, you can even you do your own setup of that. I don't think there are any strict rules about it, but my key points being that please expose your idea with a group of people who can object to you, and then take the step to the next level. You don't need to disclose all of those ideas in the public crowdfunding campaign, but it's better for you to have like an idea that where it should go. Because if you know where you want to take it, people actually in crowdfunding campaign and everything, they want to believe in you. But if you're just throwing it outside there that, hey, I'm not even myself sure if it's going to fly, nobody else is going to believe it in.
That's a very good point there. And especially, I think this is very important for people to understand that more early that you reach out for your stakeholders, and different kinds of stakeholders, not just the ones that are kind of easy to reach, that they are standing next to you.
Yes, never be afraid to.
Earlier, you get to know if your idea is really working, and you get to pivot, or you get to change it in a way that it actually applies for your customers.
Yeah, in my opinion, you should kind of run some sort of a pre-campaign already before going to that big crowdfunding campaign. So, and not to avoid the, let's say, criticism or anything. Usually there's something behind like that criticism. Sometimes it could be superficial stuff, of course, anything, but you always need to take it in and analyze.
Oh, Tommy, you're breaking up a little, so for joining us.
Thank you, Tommy.
We'll continue. That was the internet connection saying. Anyways, we're running a little bit over time here. But we really want to answer your questions, and Kimmo is just so knowledgeable and he wants to share more information with you. Let's continue. We have a few more minutes with Kimmo. Please ask your questions during the presentation. As you know, Christmas is a very crazy time of the year, so not sure if you'll get another chance to ask him this question. Go ahead, Kimmo.
So when we're going on with like these few steps on how to make the campaign work, and these are just like very crude examples, like trying to put it in a like say something quickly. But after you have clarified what you need, then you need to clarify your message, your story. And like we were talking with Tommy, it's best done when you're working with different stakeholders, also people outside of your comfort zone. So you can test, is this message really kind of resonating with your audience? And then see what kind of risks are involved, what are the milestones and schedules. When are you running the campaign actually? Then you're preparing a good communication plan. And it's also good if you can work on the communication plan with your actual audience. Maybe you can ask someone into your team, give him or her a reward for it or something. And keep on learning from your network. Go to the people, do research, make interviews, ask, and create the goals and milestones of your communication plan and how you're going to execute it, and double the time that you expect it to take for it. It's never enough, even the double time. Then you're going to create materials to different formats and different platforms. You prepare some videos, photos, social media content. You need to have something ready beforehand. You can't just wing it when you are running the campaign. Then you need to prepare technical functionality. You usually would use, it's probably easiest to use one of the platforms that exist nowadays. But of course, you can also have a web shop on your web page or something like that. It works as well for this kind of reward-based crowdfunding. But you have to choose the platform or prepare other way of accepting payments. And then starts the actual campaigning, inviting people, messaging people, calling people, writing people, talking with people, telling you're going to go crazy after 5 weeks, but you are just not thinking about anything else but your crowdfunding, and you're thinking that people are getting really bored with you because you are not talking about anything else. But it's probably worth it, and people don't really think so badly about it. You have to ask people to share, to fund, to help, or even to rant, like to give out the steam, like to say that, like, oh, this is not good. It's also working for your campaign. And remember, like I said earlier, the early funders, the early backers are most valuable. If in the first 3 days you can show the people that this is taking off, then other people have the courage to come on board. So you need to have some people that are ready to put in money from from the first day on. You need to receive the feedback, and you actually should reach out for the feedback, ask for the feedback, ask for people to tell how does it resonate? Why does it? What is wrong? Should we change the rewards, or should we change the tone or the way of telling a story? respond to feedback, take it seriously, really consider it, and learn. Because it's most of the, I think more than anything, it's sort of a learning process. You are really dipping into the water, and you better be prepared to learn and make your project better after you have learned. And when you are done, show your gratitude. Say thank you. You can't say thank you too many times, because people have given something to you, and they are, more than anything, they have given their trust to you. They have shown that, oh, I can trust that person or that company so much that I give them money, even though that I can't be sure that they are giving me back something. And remember, you have already gathered a community, so don't forget about them. Keep them in the loop, talk with them, have a party with them, listen to advice, opinions, help. Have them involved. Some words about the crowdfunding platforms. There are in Finland even now, like, I don't know, even more than 10 platforms for different kinds. For reward-based crowdfunding, there's mostly, I think, 2, and Mecenat is probably the one that is working, having a bigger audience. Platforms have different criteria. Reward-based don't really, they check through your campaign material, but they mostly try to see that if you have provided all the information and if it's looking solid. When you go to debt-based or equity-based crowdfunding, then there are more criteria that you have to fulfill, and the platforms are sure to ask all the needed questions. They have different fees. They have different business models, and the models are changing. So be sure to like shop all around, see what they are offering and what kind of fees they have. FinFCA regulates the debt and equity-based crowdfunding in Finland, so maybe you can check also what they ask from the providers, so you know what kind of regulation there is. It's quite tight in Finland, and that's the reason why some of the global platforms are not coming to Finland. And there's a question: can we have your slides? Yes, you can have the slides. I think if we have your emails, Vivian.
Yes, we can send the link. We can send a link to share in the post message email. Of course, we'll send a link to the recording, which is actually, if you're already on the live stream, will pretty much be here anyways. But we'll send it again for you for sure.
And that's what we are here for. We are here to help you. We are here to try to make your campaigns successful, try to make your business successful, and also try to help your teams work better together. And that's what the Eettaraha and the crowdfunding card deck are about. It's not just the teaching, but it's more like coaching, and it's creating connections, and from connections creating networks, and from networks creating ecosystems. That's at least my dream, is to have like very lively ecosystems where different companies can help each other out, and especially help to prepare this kind of campaigns and going out to market and so on.
I'm looking forward to this to trying this crowdfunding deck of yours, Kimmo, at some point. Sounds really cool. And, I think I've been trying to think of how to create a crowdfunding campaign for myself. And, I have all those tips, but not sure exactly where to get started. So I think the fact that you've kind of gamified this a little bit will probably help a lot of people. Is there how if someone is interested in using this deck, how can they gain access to it or try it out?
Yeah, I'm in the process of making a website for it, so it should be launching soon, probably next week. It's at korttipakka.fi. Maybe we can send the email at the website, the address with the slides.
We'll send it out in our final slides to the participants. But of course, due to GDPR compliance issues, everyone, we are only allowed to contact you about this event. So if you're interested in hearing about this future workshop, if you're interested in the extra services that Kimmo is offering, feel free to contact us. I believe I've already left my email in this description, webinar at foodtechies.fi. And Kimmo is showing everyone your contact, his contact info away. I'll just get rid of the overlay so everyone can see it as well. Of course, we'll be using and posting this webinar as well, and we'll always be updating, I think, the contact info in the description. So if this is a little outdated, always just check the description either in the YouTube channel or wherever this video has been loaded.
And I will be updating the slides also. There's some things that I would have wanted to add there, but in this short time, it's quite a lot of information that is packed in there.
Yes, thank you for being so detailed and thorough. I think just with those 8 steps alone, that's already kind of like a very thorough breakdown of how you can run your campaign already, or at least it's been more thorough than, as you said, with the other ones where they're just fill out a form and go. Like, as long as you filled out all the form information, it's fine. That's always kind of like the impression they give.
And feel free to contact me, email me, call me if you have any questions. And also tell us if you would find this kind of workshops that we have been planning with Vivian, that if you would find it useful for you. So it's also for us, this is kind of validating the business idea.
We're always validating and prototyping everything. So even here right now, we're already kind of testing. Is this a subject people are interested in? Do people want to use crowdfunding in this manner? And do they know how? Do we need to offer these extra services? That sort of thing. So please give us your feedback. Let us know if you have. If you're interested in this. We're working with different partners all the time to try and serve the startup ecosystem and the small business ecosystem a little bit better every day. If anyone has any questions, please post them now. Otherwise, I think we'll close off this webinar. All right. Well, anyhow, I want to, of course, thank Business Tampere and the 6 ICA project once again for sponsoring this webinar. And I hope to see you and everyone in the audience again in our future webinars. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.